What's up, people? It's your man Richard Profit, aka the Bronx Broker, and welcome back to the Profit Realty Group channel. Now, today it hurts my heart that what we're going to talk about here today. Today's discussion is ripped actually from today's headlines, from today's daily news headlines. Something happened yesterday in the Bronx, in the Bronx Neck area of the Bronx, and I read about it today, and I was inspired to talk about it. Actually, please, before we go on, any kids that might be in the room or might be in earshot of this video, please close the door, turn down, maybe turn down the volume. This is content is of a serious matter. Now, that being said, something happened yesterday in the Bronx to a guy that I actually knew in the Bronx. Let me read you the exact headline of today's daily news. Bronx landlord stabbed tenant to death in front of victim's 12-year-old son. Again, Bronx landlord stabbed tenant to death in front of victim's 12-year-old son. Now, yeah, see, and the victim I actually knew. The victim passed, and and allegedly during this whole melee, the victim's 12-year-old son was there, and he witnessed the whole thing. Now, just to give you a little backstory, what happened was it was a dispute over rent. Allegedly, the tenant hadn't paid the landlord rent in almost a year. Now, let me read you directly from the Daily News story. A knife-wielding landlord challenged the tenant inside the house before chasing the victim outside, where the slaying occurred as the boy stood watching, sources said. Then the landlord walked over to the 45th precinct, which is 2 blocks away, and he said, "I just stabbed someone. He's up the block. I called the police and the Bronx attorney more than 20 times, and you guys did nothing for me." Now, the accused killer stopped minutes earlier to tell a man standing on the corner in Bronx Neck that the tenant lived in my house for over 10 months without paying any rent. Now, to give you a little backstory, what happens is the landlord was a New York City Transit employee. He was a station supervisor, and the tenant was actually at one time a prominent real estate broker in the Bronx. He had a nice office, and he was there for years. He was a real estate broker for years. I knew him. He tried to do business with my office several occasions. I'm not going to speak. Let's just say that his business practices were a little different than ours, so we weren't able to facilitate any business. But nevertheless, he was a Bronx real estate broker, and he was in business for years. He actually had his office close by my office. So he knows the real estate business, and especially in the Bronx, he knows the real estate business. Now, if you know anything about landlord-tenant courts, whatever, you understand that the landlord-tenant court system in New York is very uncivilized. It takes forever to do anything in landlord-tenant court in the city of New York, and if you know the real estate business, you can throw a monkey wrench in that whole schedule, and just have it go on and on and on and on, and just delay an eviction for years, really. And this man knew the real estate business, and to take a man that I mean, he's a homeowner. He has a 2-family house. He lives in one apartment, and the real estate broker, the tenant, told him, I'm gonna rent one apartment out for you. And what he ended up doing was moving in with his wife and 3 kids. Okay, but then he fell on hard times. His business, his office got closed down. He went out of business, and he didn't pay this man's rent in almost a year. So the on the landlord side, the landlord has a city job. He has a 9 to 5. He has a mortgage. I'm pretty sure he couldn't pay that mortgage on his own with just his check. So he was counting on that other rental to pay this mortgage. And when that money wasn't coming in, I mean, the landlord business isn't for everybody. In a perfect world, you buy a house, you buy a 2-family house, you live in one unit, you get a tenant, they live in the other unit. The tenant pays a part of your mortgage, you pay the other part, and everything is peaches and cream. But in the real world, that happens sometimes, but a lot of times you'll get a tenant that, decides not to pay, or maybe they fall on hard times and they can't pay, which was probably the situation here. This man's office got closed down. He was out of business. He fell on hard times. He couldn't pay. And but that being said, even if your tenants can't pay, the bank still expects you as the homeowner to pay. They don't care if you can't call them up and say, hey, I have a tenant not paying the rent. Can you give me a 4 or 5 month pass, a 10-month, 12-month, a 24-month pass on the mortgage? They're going to say, hell no, move out. We'll sell the house. Now, you see, that is the problem. That is the problem. Now, I'm going to say something here, and, you can agree with me, you can disagree, but let's get back to the tenant, the victim, the alleged victim in this case. I mean, because to me, everybody was a victim. Everybody associated with this case is a victim. Everybody's families was a victim in this case. If the alleged stabbing victim, if he was evicted months ago, he would have still been alive. I mean, you say, oh, what you mean evicted? He would have been, maybe he would have been living with family. Maybe worst case scenario, he would have been, in a shelter. But so what? He would have still been alive. He would have had a second chance. America is the home of the second chance. America is the second chance. America was built on second chances. He could have got himself together, regrouped, and, I mean, life, this is what life is. It's peaks and valleys. But, you're here to fight another day. You have a second chance. Now, once you're gone, there's no more chances. That's it. So, of course, the landlord allegedly, if this is what happened, he just broke, he bust, he might have went too far. He definitely went too far. I can't condone any violence in any situation, but, I think the system failed him. The system failed the landlord and failed his family, and the system failed the tenant and failed the tenant's family. As a matter of fact, the system failed the whole community, because now what's going to happen to this home? This home is more than likely going to be foreclosed on, and that's going to lower the comps in the whole community. That's going to lower the comps in the surrounding 3-4 block community. Now, the landlord's family is going to suffer because this man is going to be ripped from his family and thrown in jail. The tenant's family is going to suffer because this man, is no longer with us. And the whole community around him is all going to suffer because the property values are going to drop, just because the landlord-tenant court system in New York is very uncivilized. To me, it just doesn't work. It needs to be looked at. It needs to be revamped. It needs to be addressed. I mean, people, obviously people are losing lives because the landlord-tenant system in New York just doesn't work. It's a very uncivilized system which delays a process for so long that, some people, just boil over. And sometimes you know, something like this, a tragedy like this can occur, you know, which is bad for anybody. There's no winners here. There's no winners here. And when I heard this story, it really bothered me, and I was inspired. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to bring it to you and see what you thought. Please leave a message in the comment. Send me an email, askprafit@profitrealtygroup.com. Tell me, you know, what you think, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me, what are your feelings about it, whether you knew this guy that we're speaking on, whether you knew, you know, the tenant or the landlord, you know, just tell me what your feelings on, you know, let's get the discussion open. Let's get to talking. This system has to be addressed. Let's open up discussion. I'm Richard Profit. This is the Profit Realty Group channel, and today is a sad day. It's a sad day for the real estate community. Let's get talking.